Alabama. This man considers sweet tea a food group and believes fried chicken is best enjoyed in bulk, preferably while standing next to his truck. His alligator, who may or may not be his emotional support animal, wears sunglasses because Alabama heat is no joke. His SEC football shrine is more fortified than his house, and if you insult his team, prepare for a 5-hour debate and a plate of barbecue. Alaska. This Alaskan man's coffee is the size of his head because when it's dark half the year, caffeine is a survival tool. His snowmobile is barely holding together with duct tape, but as long as it starts, it's still got at least one more winter left in it. A moose in a scarf casually photobombs him while his sled dog, rocking tiny boots, silently questions all of his life choices. Arizona. This sunburned retiree is practically bathing in sunscreen but still looks like he lost a fight with the Arizona sun. His air conditioner is holding on for dear life because in Arizona, anything under 100 degrees Fahrenheit is considered chilly. A roadrunner speeds past a rattlesnake that looks just as confused as the tourists who thought hiking at noon was a good idea. Arkansas. This man takes fishing so seriously that he considers it both a sport and a full-time job, as proven by the "Gone Fishin'" sign in his truck. His wild hog rummaging through his tackle box is basically a free security system, until it eats all the bait. The unfinished porch and laundry on the line say, "Work in progress," but in Arkansas, fishing always comes before home improvement. California. This dude's entire personality revolves around surfing, overpriced iced coffee, and making sure his avocado toast is gluten-free. His electric car is parked nearby, but let's be honest, he mostly just uses his e-scooter to avoid traffic. A tech bro coding on the go and a celebrity dodging paparazzi in the background prove that California is basically its own planet. Colorado. This flannel-wearing mountain man drinks kombucha for his gut health, but immediately washes it down with a locally brewed craft beer. His Subaru, covered in national park stickers, hasn't touched pavement in months because he only drives it on real terrain. Meanwhile, mountain goats judge him harshly as a yoga enthusiast risks their life for the perfect Instagram shot on a cliff. Connecticut. This polo-wearing boat shoe enthusiast is legally required to carry a lacrosse stick and a cup of overpriced artisanal coffee at all times. His golden retriever and luxury SUV are both meticulously groomed because appearances matter in Connecticut. In the background, wealthy retirees argue over golf scores because in this state, the only thing more competitive than sports is status. Delaware. This guy is living the Delaware dream. A briefcase for work, a tax-free shopping bag for play, and a permanent identity crisis about whether he's in Maryland or Pennsylvania. The state's beach is roughly the size of a backyard kiddie pool, yet somehow always packed with tourists. Most of the cars speeding by aren't stopping. Delaware is the one state people visit by accident while trying to get somewhere else. Florida. This Florida retiree clutches a margarita the size of their head while casually walking an alligator on a leash like it's a golden retriever. A golf cart covered in flamingo decorations speeds by, proving that in Florida, anything with wheels is fair game for the road. Meanwhile, a sunburned spring breaker naps on the sidewalk next to a pile of souvenir t-shirts, blissfully unaware of the hurricane warning sign flapping in the wind. Georgia. This southern belle is fanning herself so hard you'd think she's personally trying to change the weather while sipping a gallon of sweet tea. A Bulldogs fan in the background is aggressively debating football with a statue, and the statue is losing. The Waffle House sign flickers ominously, ready to witness yet another late-night showdown between a guy named Cletus and an overcooked hash brown. Hawaii. This chill surfer dude is so relaxed, even the erupting volcano in the background can't stress him out. A wild chicken struts across the beach like it owns the place, because in Hawaii, it basically does. Meanwhile, a pack of sunburned tourists are failing spectacularly at surfing, proving that paradise is not for the weak. Idaho. This bearded potato farmer is living his best spud life, because in Idaho, potatoes aren't just food, they're a way of being. A deer in sunglasses casually munches on a baked potato, proving that even the wildlife here is fully committed to the brand. Meanwhile, a potato-shaped hot air balloon floats in the sky, because if it's not potato-related, does it even belong in Idaho? Illinois. This deep dish devotee grips a pizza slice so thick it doubles as a workout while sipping gas station coffee that tastes like road salt. A tourist in the background stubbornly calls it the Sears Tower, as if time stopped in 2009. Meanwhile, an aggressive goose stands guard, enforcing its unchallenged rule over every park, sidewalk, and unfortunate pedestrian in Illinois. Indiana. This proud Hoosier clutches an ear of corn like it's an Olympic gold medal while holding a pork tenderloin sandwich so big it could be used as a frisbee. Behind him, an Indy car zooms past a rusty pickup truck, because in Indiana, race cars and farm trucks share the roads. Meanwhile, a lost tourist realizes the only thing in sight for miles is corn, and more corn. Iowa. This Iowan farmer clutches an ear of corn like a family heirloom, while his prized butter cow sculpture gleams in the sun. A tractor parade rolls by because in Iowa, farm equipment doubles as public transportation. Meanwhile, a confused presidential candidate shakes hands with a scarecrow, proving that every 4 years, Iowa turns into a political circus. Kansas. This Kansas farmer casually enjoys a slice of homemade pie while a tornado carries off his cow, because at this point, it's just part of the routine. The Welcome to Kansas' sign is barely holding on, much like everyone's patience with the non-stop wind. Meanwhile, a truck full of wheat speeds down an endless road, trying to escape the fact that the next town is still 2 hours away. Kentucky. This dapper Kentuckian is sipping a mint julep so massive it might qualify as a swimming pool while clutching his winning derby ticket. A group of fancy hat-wearing folks in the background are deep in a heated debate over whose bourbon is best. Spoiler alert, it's theirs. Meanwhile, a racehorse is clearly plotting its escape, possibly to avoid ending up in a fried chicken stand down the road. Louisiana. This jazz-loving Louisianan is playing the saxophone with one hand, while expertly holding a steaming bowl of gumbo in the other, because rhythm and roux go hand in hand. Behind him, an alligator in sunglasses watches a parade float carrying an absolutely massive crawfish, because Louisiana refuses to do anything small. Meanwhile, a tourist drowning in Mardi Gras beads looks like they just realized Bourbon Street doesn't come with a morning after refund policy. Maine. This flannel-clad lobster man grips a giant lobster in one hand and black coffee strong enough to put hair on your chest in the other. A moose in a scarf strolls by like it's just another Tuesday, while a seagull eyes his whoopie pies with criminal intent. Meanwhile, a tourist in an overstuffed parka is shivering uncontrollably, despite the locals calling it shorts weather. Maryland. This Marylander treats Old Bay seasoning like oxygen and holds a crab so big it might fight back. Behind him, a highway merges in 6 directions at once, while an angry driver honks at a lost tourist who dared to hesitate. Meanwhile, a heron in sunglasses judges the entire scene, unimpressed by the chaos of the Chesapeake Bay. Massachusetts. This Massachusetts local grips 2 Dunkin' iced coffees, because it doesn't matter if it's snowing. Iced coffee is a year-round commitment. A duck boat full of confused tourists nearly crashes into a rotary while aggressive drivers lay on their horns because Massachusetts roads are a contact sport. Meanwhile, a seagull swipes a lobster roll straight off someone's plate, proving that Boston's most ruthless criminals have wings. Michigan. This Michigander wears a winter coat with shorts and flip-flops because they refuse to acknowledge the concept of too cold. A rusted-out car struggles through deep snow while an ice fisherman happily sits on a frozen lake like it's peak vacation. Meanwhile, a Lions fan stares at the TV in disbelief, and a swarm of Upper Peninsula mosquitoes hovers menacingly, waiting for their next victim. Minnesota. This Minnesotan is balancing a giant bowl of hot dish while ice fishing, proving that multitasking is a way of life up north. A moose in earmuffs trudges past, completely unfazed by the frozen chaos around it. Meanwhile, a tourist is hopelessly butchering the pronunciation of Wayzata as overly polite neighbors bond over another Vikings playoff disappointment. Mississippi. This Mississippi local holds a catfish the size of a toddler in one hand and a gallon of sweet tea in the other like it's just another Tuesday. A pig in sunglasses lounges in the background, proving that even the farm animals here know how to relax in the heat. Meanwhile, a group of locals are deep in a heated debate about the best way to cook barbecue, because in Mississippi, that's more important than politics. Missouri. This Missourian is gripping a plate of ribs like it's a sacred artifact while repping his St. Louis Cardinals cap with absolute loyalty. A pickup truck packed with fireworks speeds past, because in Missouri, every day is a good day to set something on fire. Meanwhile, a tourist struggles to pronounce Nevada, Missouri correctly, while a tornado lurks in the background, waiting to interrupt someone's barbecue. Montana. This Montanan cowboy is fully prepared for anything. Fishing, hunting, or a sudden cattle stampede, all before breakfast. A moose blocks the road like it pays taxes, while a grizzly bear in sunglasses waves because Montana wildlife has zero respect for personal space. Meanwhile, a confused tourist stares at a bag of gas station jerky labeled elk, probably, questioning every life decision that led them here. Nebraska. This Nebraskan proudly holds up an ear of corn like it's the Lombardi Trophy, while gripping a Runza sandwich in the other hand, because those are the true state treasures. A parade float dedicated to the Cornhuskers rolls by, because in Nebraska, football is basically a second religion. Meanwhile, a confused tourist scans the horizon, desperately searching for a hill, a tree, or literally anything that isn't just flat. Nevada. This Vegas high roller is juggling playing cards and a margarita the size of his ego while flashing enough gold to blind a coyote. A cowboy rides a Bronco like he's starring in a rodeo, while a UFO casually hovers over Area 51 because Nevada is just built different. Meanwhile, a group of dazed slot machine addicts haven't blinked in hours, proving that time doesn't exist inside a casino. New Hampshire. This flannel-wearing New Hampshireite clutches a jug of maple syrup like it's liquid gold while proudly holding a live free or die sign. A moose stands in the middle of the road, refusing to move because in New Hampshire, nature has the right of way. Meanwhile, a tourist stares in shock at their tax-free shopping receipt, realizing they've spent way more money than they ever intended. New Jersey. This Jersey guy is double-fisting a giant slice of pizza and a cup of coffee labeled regular, because anything else is unacceptable. A seagull on the boardwalk is aggressively stealing someone's sandwich, proving that Jersey Shore wildlife is just as tough as the locals. Meanwhile, a gas station attendant glares at a clueless out-of-towner attempting to pump their own gas, ready to issue a firm, "Hey, we don't do that here." New Mexico. This New Mexican is gripping a green chili like it's a sacred artifact while holding a breakfast burrito so massive it requires two hands. A UFO hovers suspiciously over Roswell because in New Mexico, aliens are just part of the scenery. Meanwhile, a jackalope in sunglasses lounges near a roadside stand selling world's best hatch chilies because in this state, everything revolves around peppers. New York. This fast-walking New Yorker is balancing a giant pizza slice and a cup of coffee while dodging slow-moving tourists like it's an Olympic sport. A taxi driver is mid-yell, a businessman is sprinting to catch the subway, and a street saxophonist is playing aggressively, just another normal day. Meanwhile, a pigeon with zero fear locks eyes with a confused tourist holding an unfolded map, ready to assert its dominance. North Carolina. This North Carolinian clutches a plate of pulled pork and a gallon of sweet tea like they're essential survival tools. A NASCAR race roars by in the background because in North Carolina, fast cars and barbecue go hand in hand. Meanwhile, a pig in sunglasses lounges beside a stack of hush puppies, unimpressed by the never-ending beach debate happening nearby. North Dakota. This North Dakotan holds a steaming hot dish of tater tot casserole like it's the only thing keeping them warm in sub-zero temperatures. A bison casually strolls through a full-blown blizzard, completely unfazed, unlike the frozen tourist wondering why there's no civilization in sight. Meanwhile, a pickup truck struggles to start, because in North Dakota, winter isn't a season, it's a way of life. Ohio. This Ohioan clutches a plate of Cincinnati chili and a gas station slushie like they're part of a balanced diet. An orange traffic barrel looms behind them because Ohio roads are permanently under construction. No one remembers a time before. Meanwhile, a lost tourist struggles to pronounce Cuyahoga, while a deer casually strolls through a suburban neighborhood like it pays rent. Oklahoma. This Oklahoman grips a smoked brisket sandwich and a Sonic Route 44 drink like they're essential survival gear. A storm chaser speeds by as a tornado looms in the background because here, bad weather is just part of the daily routine. Meanwhile, a cowboy rides a mechanical bull in a gas station parking lot while Sooners and Cowboys fans argue about football like it's life or death. Oregon. This Oregonian is juggling an organic, locally roasted coffee and a craft beer because making decisions is overrated. A cyclist in a rain poncho powers through the eternal drizzle while a beaver in a beanie floats by, fully embracing the Pacific Northwest lifestyle. Meanwhile, a food truck selling kombucha-flavored tacos stands proudly as a group of passionate protesters marches past, protesting something. Pennsylvania. This Pennsylvanian rocks a half Eagles, half Steelers jersey because choosing just one team would start a family feud. An Amish buggy and a highway traffic jam exist in perfect chaos, while a Wawa glows in the background like a sacred temple. Meanwhile, a group of locals argue over whether it's pronounced water or wooder, as a lost tourist stares helplessly at a road sign that makes zero sense. Rhode Island. This Rhode Islander wears flip-flops in the dead of winter while double-fisting a lobster roll and an extra-large Dunkin' coffee. A lost driver endlessly loops the same roundabout, proving that road signs here are more of a suggestion than actual guidance. Meanwhile, a sign reminds everyone that nowhere in the state is more than 45 minutes away. Yet somehow people still complain about long drives. South Carolina. This sunburned South Carolinian clutches a gallon of sweet tea and a heaping plate of shrimp and grits like their state-mandated essentials. A golf cart packed with confused tourists speeds by, because in South Carolina, golf carts are basically legal road vehicles. Meanwhile, a heated barbecue debate rages on in the background, because nothing divides the state faster than mustard versus vinegar-based sauce. South Dakota. This South Dakotan grips a Mount Rushmore souvenir in one hand and a plate of chislic in the other like they're national treasures. A clueless tourist attempts to take a selfie with a wild bison, unaware they're about to make the evening news. Meanwhile, a prairie dog in a tiny hat watches as a gang of Sturgis bikers thunders past, completely unfazed by the chaos. Tennessee. This friendly Tennessean rocks a cowboy hat and plaid shirt while holding a guitar and a plate of biscuits, because good music and good food go hand in hand. A neon-lit Nashville street comes alive with live music while hikers enjoy the scenic beauty of the Great Smoky Mountains. Meanwhile, a classic pickup truck with a loyal dog in the back rolls by, completing the picture of Tennessee charm. Texas. This Texan grips a smoked brisket and a Texas-shaped waffle like they're state-issued essentials. A longhorn cow lounges next to a pickup truck with a "Don't Mess with Texas" bumper sticker because everything here has attitude. Meanwhile, a confused tourist stares at a map, slowly realizing that driving anywhere in Texas still means hours on the road. Utah. This Utahn is balancing a giant green jello mold and ski poles because winter sports and quirky food traditions go hand in hand. A minivan overflowing with kids zooms by, proving that Utah takes family-friendly to a whole new level. Meanwhile, a tourist stares in confusion at a soda shop menu with 50 different ways to mix Diet Coke, questioning all of their life choices. Vermont. This Vermonter clutches a jug of maple syrup and a wheel of cheddar cheese like they're the only two food groups that matter. A moose casually strolls through a covered bridge, completely unfazed by the chaos of leaf-peeping tourists clogging up the scenic road. Meanwhile, a snowboarder soars off a ski slope with reckless enthusiasm, fully committed to Vermont's unofficial motto, "Send it and hope for the best." Virginia. This Virginian proudly rocks a tricorn hat and a Virginia Tech versus UVA rivalry shirt because history and college football are equally serious matters here. A Civil War reenactment plays out behind them, while commuters sit in eternal I-95 traffic, questioning their life choices. Meanwhile, a confused tourist debates whether Virginia is actually part of the South, unaware that this debate will never, ever be settled. Washington State. This Washingtonian grips an absurdly large cup of coffee in one hand and a freshly caught salmon in the other because caffeine and seafood are life. A grunge guitarist jams out in the rain because in Washington, drizzle is just background ambiance. Meanwhile, Bigfoot casually strolls through the misty forest as a traffic jam of hybrid cars crawls forward on a perpetually wet highway. West Virginia. This West Virginian clutches a heaping plate of biscuits and gravy in one hand and a banjo in the other, ready for breakfast and a bluegrass jam session. A black bear rummages through discarded moonshine jugs while a group of ATV riders tears through the Appalachian hills like it's a sport. Meanwhile, a country road sign stands proudly, as if daring anyone to resist breaking into song. Wisconsin. This Wisconsinite proudly rocks a giant foam cheesehead while balancing a bratwurst in one hand and a frosty beer in the other like a true professional. A cow wearing sunglasses munches on cheese curds because in Wisconsin, dairy isn't just food, it's a lifestyle. Meanwhile, a lost tourist spins out on an icy road as ice fishers hunker down in tiny shacks, proving that winter is just another season for tailgating. Wyoming. This Wyoming cowboy holds a T-bone steak like it's a trophy while gripping a lasso, ready to wrangle anything, including tourists who get too close to wildlife. A bison blocks traffic like it owns the road, because it does, while a moose in a bandana chills outside a log cabin. Meanwhile, a group of clueless Yellowstone tourists stands dangerously close to an erupting geyser,